All right, good afternoon to those of you on the East Coast. Good morning to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. Thanks so much for joining us on this Saturday. And if you know, every Saturday we try to make it a point of doing This Week in Review, the show that gives you the rundown of the goings on in pop culture, whether it's sports, film, TV, theater, whatever the case may be. We try to, give you some insight. And of course, I'm never alone in talking about a lot of these topics. So I want to welcome my co-host Spillman. Bring him on now. What's
Yo,
going
yo,
on?
yo. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. How's it going? I've beaten the dead horse. I don't have anything funny to say about the Lakers because, I just don't have anything, guys. I've run out of steam. I've come to the realization that they just stink. So we can go forward.
For a couple of things, though, all jokes aside, props to the Lakers because I don't think anyone expected them to get as far as they did.
That's true.
So
That's true.
hey, I will give you props there.
There you
You
go.
know what? And as I said, I always appreciate, that you as much as you give the smoke, you take the smoke as well. You don't duck like some people I know,
I mean, some
they
people duck,
when
they
we
do.
when we get into sports, when their team ain't doing well, they don't want to talk about it or they can't be found, they start ghosting. So I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, so we have a couple of stories to talk about because there are some things that went down in the NBA world, a lot of things actually. But there are also some things that went on in the film world also. So let's dive in, shall we?
Oh, yeah, let's get into it.
Starting us off, getting into some film news that happened this week. We had the 20th anniversary of Finding Nemo, which you see up there on the top. We had Ming Na Wen. Got her star on the Walk of Fame. It's crazy to believe that she doesn't have one and she just recently got it because like she's awesome. And then additionally we had John Carpenter teasing The Thing 2, and of course, The Rock confirming, his return into the Fast and Furious franchise. So, with these, tidbits that we had in terms of our film news, what are your thoughts on what this week had to offer in terms of the film world?
Well, I just want to start with Finding Nemo because, Finding Nemo is a great and wonderful film. It made me feel so happy when I saw it. I was playing college basketball at the time, and sometimes my coach would be saying crazy stuff, and I just say to myself, just keep balling, just keep balling, just keep balling. So it's just, you got to focus. You got to keep doing what you got to do. That's what that movie is about, perseverance. I also went to Sydney, Australia once, and them seagulls are as aggressive as the seagulls in that movie. Them seagulls snatch my lunch for real. They are mine. They how they say mine on the thing, mine, mine, mine. No, they really like that. They're aggressive seagulls. They even have signs to tell the people the seagulls are aggressive. And I was like, how aggressive are these seagulls? Very aggressive. They live outside, so that's great. I like Ming Na Wen. She's a great actress. All of the great movies that she's been in. I think that she's been a lot more successful recently. She did a lot of stuff in the '90s, but I know that she's been really big recently with some of the stuff that she's done. We can talk about the other two. I don't want to just go off on my tangent right here, so we can get ourselves a nice little back and forth. But I just think that this news is pretty good news. I'm interested in, I think I heard you got to pay for those Walk of Fame walks. I think they don't just award them to you. I think you got to pay for them. Is that? Yeah, I think I've heard that. I don't want to, if you're in the comments and please tell us. But yeah, that's good. But The Finding Nemo was a great movie. Yeah, that's all I got for those two. We can circle back to the other two topics. What do you have to say about those?
So a couple of things. I'll start first, with Finding Nemo. It's hard to believe that it's been 20 years.
Yeah, yeah, really.
Really aging ourselves here where we keep coming up on all of these anniversaries of these films. It feels like they just came out like yesterday, but come to find out it was like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 20 years ago. I have been posting. I guess now that we have the Flash coming out soon, they've been posting a lot of retro stuff with Batman. And if anyone knows it, I've said it time and time again. '89 Batman was my first film, so like a lot of those things I remember like yesterday. I remember hearing the theme song in the opening sequence of that film. I remember you know Keaton saying I'm Batman for the first time. When he was over
Hmm.
the cliff and he had the bad guy, like, not over the cliff, he was over the roof of the building and had
Yeah.
over the roof. It's like he's like, "Who are you?" It's like, "I'm Batman." Or of course, Jack Nicholson of where does he get those wonderful toys? Like,
Yeah.
all
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
quotable lines. So, in thinking of that, unfortunately, I mean, I don't get me wrong, I enjoyed Finding Nemo, but like, there are other films out there that have a a, a larger impact for me in terms of what its impact on me, like Toy Story.
Hmm.
But in speaking of Finding Nemo has established that foundation, I want to say, of excellence that Pixar has, provided, for many years in that time. And obviously, there's no company that, bats 1,000, but Pixar,
Pretty
consistently,
close.
pretty,
Pretty close.
pretty close, they're consistently, if they're not good, they're great. And Finding Nemo, they were talking with the going over the history of that film, and it was the first Pixar film to win an Oscar back in 2004. And obviously, Pixar has seen lots of success in the time since, but again, establishing that foundation of excellence for Pixar, so that way it allowed people to trust that brand,
Hmm.
audiences to trust that brand, and for to set that foundation to continue to do terrific work going forward. Now, additionally, in talking about some of the other points that we have here, story bits, uh, in talking about Ming Na Wen, I mean, what can you say? Just you touched on it just now, but um, she's iconic, and it's crazy, like I said, to think that she hasn't gotten her star in the Walk of Fame. They were talking about, in the story, this was in EW, of she is just the seventh Asian actor to receive a star. So
Wow.
recently, which is another shout out because I love this film as well. And we're going to actually talk about the director of the uh, of a film that he starred in. That's James Hong. James Hong, who many may remember as the villain from Big Trouble in Little China.
Oh yeah.
He recently got a star on the Walk of Fame at the age of 93. So he's the
Right.
most recent one outside of, Win to receive that star on the Walk of Fame. But, again, going back to her, so many iconic things that she has provided her talents to. If we're talking about Mulan, if we're talking about Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., of course, so,
Hmm.
more recently, The Mandalorian, people, it has a special place in my heart. It's not the greatest film, but Street Fighter is Chung Li.
Oh yeah.
She was an awesome Chung Li. I loved her as
Oh yeah.
Chung Li. So yeah, like it's shout out to her. It's awesome to see that she's being recognized for her body of work. And now, in diving into the other two portions, I'm gonna get to Fast and Furious, but in talking about The
Oh my
Thing holds,
God.
such a special place in my heart, and I've talked about it time and time again on this show, of talking about how important that film is to me, in terms of uh, how I feel about it, as in terms of its impact, not just with special effects and being being like a hallmark in practical effects. But aside from that too, aside from providing that foundation with practical effects, also just its effectiveness in terms of its story, where oftentimes it just gets pigeonholed as a war film, but I mean it works in a whole bunch of genres, whether it's
Sci-fi.
horror, science
Hmm.
fiction. It crosses many genres, and it can work on many levels in terms of genre, and it still holds up even all these years later. We're talking about what, 40 plus years. We're still talking about this film, and it still holds up. You can watch it today, and it's still effective as a film.
Oh yeah.
So, it's, and I've mentioned it before, it's my favorite film, like ever, like and there are a lot of films that I enjoy a lot, but it's right there at that pinnacle for me. So I love John Carpenter's A Thing. And I mean, we've talked about, what is it, Fast and Furious, and the schism, that had been going on for quite a long time between Diesel and The Rock, and it's good to know that they finally squashed it. Um, I will say again that I feel like it didn't hurt that the DC stuff, universe stuff happened.
Oh yeah,
It
he
kind
needed
of
that
helped it
check.
along.
He needed that check. He was like, "Oh wait, wait,
Helped it
wait! I
along.
need a check, y'all."
Same goes for Gal Gadot.
Yep.
So ironically, it's crazy how the DC universe actually helped the Fast and Furious franchise
Yep.
by how it affected the possible futures of two of their leading characters, lead actors, and as those iconic characters. So um, all of this news is awesome. My only thing with this, only thing that I'm hesitant about, put it this way, is because I have such reverence for the thing. While I like the idea of them potentially continuing the story forward or taking the story forward, I'm still hesitant to for them not to mess up what the original was.
Yeah.
Um, they obviously, was in not too long ago, I guess it's been what, like 10, 15 years, we had the prequel film.
Hmm.
Um, and while the prequel film was fine, it didn't hold up to the original, and I think a lot of people will address the fact that, like the original, unlike the original, I should say, it didn't use practical effects, and it relied too heavily on CG. And you can't really do that if you're doing a sequel to a film that is so well known for that particular thing. You want to be able to continue that tradition and take it a step further. And I feel like there's going to be, because the effects, because of the technology that we have available, there's going to be such a temptation to not go as practical as possible
Hmm.
should they continue the story forward. So
Yeah. I think that this is what I always we've talked about this multiple times about, like, movie magic being movie magic, and like, you can put something into a computer and 30,000 people in a computer team could put some computer stuff together, but it still doesn't look as good or resonate as much with the audience or even the actors as something that's right there that they can physically see that just is scary. And it's just like, so much of the things, the movie and the thing, those practical effects are things that are terrifying to see. So, the actors see terrifying things, that thing turning into the head, walk across the thing, terrifying. And I'm sure if you saw it on set, even though that is not a real thing and they made it, it's just not good. It's not something you want to see. So I'm interested, and I hope, but part of it too is Just like Michael Irvin said, we're losing the recipes. The people that know how to do those effects and had the ideas behind those teams, those people are all gone and retired, and they don't do it no more. So, unfortunately, we're kind of in the CGI era, and that's all that people know how to do. And it's good for some things, but it's not good for other things. Things like this, where you need practical effects, I personally think that they should do what they can to make the practical effects practical. That'd be nice. But the Thing is just one of those great movies. Like it's inspired so much media. Like I remember there's a Venom comic book where they have the Venom symbiote as the Thing, and Venom symbiote goes through and just destroys a bunch of people. And it's just like so many homages, so many like that Croydenberg kind of thing is just so creepy. It's just like it's crazy because those kind of effects we don't really have them anymore, and they used to scare me so much. Like that whole
Yeah,
like
yeah. A lot of that body horror from like the
that
80s,
body
like it's
horror is just like
very,
we don't do it anymore, and
very
it's just
underrated.
it's
Very underrated.
so unnerving. I just like
Yeah.
like that movie Guyver had very similar effects.
Oh
A
yeah,
lot of the
yeah.
movies are inspired
Hmm.
by it, and
Hmm.
Carpenter is a great director, so I have faith in him. But like you've said, we've said many times before, all these remakes, they're great. We like them, but you can only do so much with a property so old, and some things are standalone products. Like the Thing is a standalone thing. Like even a prequel of the Thing. The Thing came from space. What is the prequel? Him just flying through space? Like, what are we doing here? Like, it's when it gets here is when it's a problem. We don't need to know what its motivation is because it didn't say anything. It just was killing people and absorbing them. So I think the hunt for more money and this writer strike may make an inferior product, but we just can hope for the best.
Indeed, indeed. And I didn't comment on this earlier. The whole reason, according to the story of how that subject actually came up is, people wanted to know. And again, talking about, how iconic the film was. Uh, it was at a festival. Let me just make sure that I specify directly because I want to make sure I'm accurate with the name of the festival. It's at the Texas. What is it? Sorry, let
Book
me.
suppository.
No. Texas Frightmare weekend. But like in
Yeah.
the panel, someone had asked about, Childs, and it's always been speculated that Childs was actually, the Thing. And there, you can, look it up on whether
Yeah.
it's in articles or on YouTube and all the speculative stuff of reasons why people believe it is or isn't. And there's some good reasons out there because I think one of the big ones that they talk about at the end of that film is that that character is not breathing. Like when you're in cold weather, a lot of times you're
Hmm.
gonna see the breath
The
coming out of
breath.
your mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
That's not happening in that scene if you're looking at it closely between him and and McCready, Kurt Russell's character. So,
Hmm.
in asking about that, and someone trying to pull an answer out of Carpenter, Carpenter ended up segueing that into a tease of, I can't really talk about it because we might actually do something like that for a sequel. So, um, uh, I would say, great segue there, or I should say great, what's the word when you're trying to, uh, and it happens all the time, like at conventions and cons and things, where you have guests that are probably have NDAs or can't talk about things, but it was a great way to divert against the actual answer because there's no guarantee that we may actually get it, but it was enough there to allow us to switch our attentions to this sequel. So as I said, see what happens. Congrats again to win. Um, you know, Crazy to believe again. 20 years of Finding Nemo.
Yeah.
Uh,
Crazy.
and we'll see what happens with Fast and Furious. So
We'll see.
because as I said, like I have my hesitation. Of course, I'm gonna be there to check it out, but I don't know about you guys out there. It's just weird to me when you leave a cliffhanger of a film, and when you're doing the cliffhanger of the film, when you shot it, you didn't shoot it all together. It's just gonna be weird
Yeah.
to pick up on those cliffhangers that were left there, and the characters are 4 or 5 years older than what they're supposed to be. A good
Yeah.
example of that would be the kid, would be his son. That's going
Yeah.
to be weird, especially when you're looking at it. Say if you're marathoning a film and you're seeing that he's like in one scene like 10, and then in
The
the
next
middle
scene,
of
he's
he's
got
like
a beard.
14. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, he aged 4 years within
He's
the
so
like 2 seconds.
tall. He's so tall.
So yeah, that's just weird to me. So but any final thoughts before we get into the sports stuff?
Oh no, no, no. I think we can just move on.
Bet.
Yeah.
So, getting into, as I said, closing off with our sports stories, we do have some updates in regards to, updating regarding the NBA playoffs. But we did have some new announcements in terms of head coaching gigs of coaches that are heading new teams. Of course, we have the news of Shannon Sharp leaving undisputed, and last but not least, of course, John Morant's suspension. So, we can start first if you just want to talk briefly, discuss briefly, Spillman, about where we are in terms of the NBA playoffs. Like I said, you talked about it a little bit at the top of talking about, how the Lakers have been eliminated. Um, and now we are down to our two teams with the Nuggets and the Heat. There was really, some nail biting there with the Eastern Conference Finals, having the Heat allow the Celtics to push them all the way to a game 7. But they were able to pull it out, and now we are, you know, definitively in the NBA Finals now. With the Nuggets having already taken a game, so I guess we can
Oh,
start
so
there.
let's just start that the finals are over. The finals are over. I think that Joker. I disrespected Joker. I didn't think that he was as good as advertised because I've seen him like flounder in the playoffs the previous 2 seasons, and also
Sure.
he lost against the Lakers in 2020, and I felt like Anthony Davis had his number, but that was 4 years ago now, almost.
Sure.
He's a completely different player now. He's mastered that drunken master style of basketball, as I like to call it. Like he's got that. I don't need to jump fast. I don't need to run. I don't need to run fast. I don't need to jump hard. I don't need to be this. I'm strong, but I'm not the strongest. I can like he. I don't have to have crazy handles and stuff, but I got enough handles and enough court vision that anything I want to do, I can do. And it's a methodical way of playing the game that there's no answer for. Like just like with Anthony Davis in the last series, they had to take their best big man defender off of him because he was cooking him so much. He was just eating him for breakfast. So to me, I feel like the finals are over. I like some of the head coaching hires. I think that Frank Vogel will be a good defensive mind for that team. The Lakers
Actually,
team
let's
that he
hold off on
coached.
that because I want to actually
Okay.
dig into the teams that they're with, because I feel like that's fascinating too. So, do you
Yeah.
have any final thoughts regarding the finals, and then we'll
No,
switch gears?
I think it's over. Give Joker his crown. People are saying now that he's better than Dirk Nowitzki and other crazy things, but I don't know that yet. But he's definitely a unique basketball player. I think the closest comp to him is Wes Unseld. As far as a passing big, I've heard comparisons to a young, healthy Bill Walton, but I don't really have that much knowledge of Bill Walton. I have more of Wes Unseld just because of like him being from here and stuff. Him playing here. But that finals is over, man. That Miami, they had a great run, but there's nothing that they can do. It's like they have a mismatch from the best player in the finals is Joker, You could probably say the second best is Jimmy Butler, but you could argue Jamal Murray is
Jamal
better than
Murray,
Jimmy Butler. You
bad
could argue
dude,
he's better,
bad
especially
dude,
playing next to Joker.
bad dude,
No one on Miami can check Jamal Murray. And then they've
bad
also
dude.
got Porter. No one can check Porter because he's out there being 6'10", wetting them up, doing his thing. And then they've got,
Listen,
Aaron Gordon, he's just junkyard dogging it. So there's nothing that they could do. This is over.
so I'll
Cancel
say
Christmas.
this: I do believe I do have the Nuggets winning the finals. However, I don't think it's going to be a full sweep. I feel it's going to be a gentleman's sweep.
Oh no.
I still feel that Spolstra and Butler, they have too much pride to be swept, and I feel like they're at least going to steal one game,
Yeah.
even if it's like a thriller where they are able to get it like at the very end. I don't think it's going to be like a blowout game. If
Yeah.
they do get a game, I still feel it's going to be a close game, but I still have them at least winning one game because I just based off of how what we know about Spolstra and what we know about Butler and like the grind that they have and the the hard nosedness that they have when it comes to playing, and that mentality that they have. I still feel that they're at least going to steal one game
Yeah.
before it's all said and done. So I'm still giving them one game, but I do agree with you. They don't have an answer for the matchups that are there with the Nuggets. And it's good, to see, the Nuggets, have this opportunity to win because here's the thing, like I, I think a lot of people are sleeping on this being an eventuality. In the last couple of seasons, we've really seen the Nuggets continue to like evolve, and we saw flashes and glimpses of it. If we're using our anime comparisons, they had those Gohan instances of
Oh yeah, for sure.
awesomeness where
For
they were like,
sure.
oh, okay, like they got a
Oh, they
nice
got
squad.
powers. They got
Yeah, they got
powers.
a nice squad there. Well, they pretty nice, but you know, as you continue to obviously get older in the league and have more experience under your belt in the postseason, you're able to it's not necessarily ability, but up here of having the fortitude to be able to get past the matchups that you have in each round and being able to have that stick to itiveness and mental toughness to be able to beat a team four times within a series, which I think doesn't really get enough credit of how difficult that is.
It's crazy.
In each of the rounds that you have. So and speaking to that, switching gears, I know you kind of touched on it just now, and I didn't really get into specifics of it, but with Monty Williams and Frank Vogel, each getting new, head coaching gigs. So if I were going into, specifics, Frank Vogel, according in the story in the Athletic, he is has a want to he has a 5 year. Let me see. Let me
I
make
think
sure.
it's 5 years.
Yeah, 5 year
5 years, 31. I
contract
think it's 5 years,
for
31. Yeah.
31.25 million with the Suns, or yeah, with the Suns, and then Monty Williams. This is crazy. He actually has a deal with the deal with the Pistons, and it is actually a historic a deal that he's able to supplant was able to supplant with the Pistons, in which he has a 6 year, $78.5 million contract with the
Crazy.
Pistons, which is the largest coaching deal in NBA history. Now, that info was dropped by Adrian Wojnarowski, Woj, who many people know with ESPN. But insane, right? Of you have, which it's really fascinating. You have one coach who is basically, it feels like they're playing musical chairs, where you had one coach leave get fired from a team and go to the East Coast, while you have another coach who got fired from a West Coast team and hopped into that same coach's prior position. Both have had great success, with their teams. Monty Williams and what he was able to do, with the Suns. I just feel like uh, it just wasn't when it comes to the Suns. There was an expectation of them obviously getting to the finals, and it didn't really happen the way that they were anticipating it would this year, especially having the addition of Kevin Durant.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really crazy because in both cases, and congratulations to both of them. In both cases, they're terrific coaches, and it just feels like when it comes to the league, it's very fickle because even when you are successful in winning a title, is not that far, around the corner that you're already, concerned about, your position or your job. So, because I mean, we had what just in these playoffs, I feel like aside from the actual teams that have lost, there were a lot of casualties in terms of coaches too. I mean, you
Yeah.
just commented on Monty Williams, but I mean, even with the Milwaukee Bucks, like
Yeah.
a couple years out, won the finals. Vogel won the finals in the bubble, and like it's insane, like how the NBA is now. I don't know what your thoughts, on those matters are.
Well, I think that, coaches, work with certain types of teams, and a lot of these teams have changed from the coaches that they have. Um, and I think that also a lot of times coaches run their run. Like they have, especially with certain kind of coaches, like the coach of Milwaukee. The coach of Milwaukee, he was a great coach. He won a finals, but we all credit that finals on Giannis. We don't credit that finals like he fixed Giannis, like a Phil Jackson did for Michael Jordan and the Bulls, or with Kobe and the Lakers. Um, Also, I just think that they needed a different look. I think that Phoenix picked up Vogel because they need to have more defense, and if they need to have more defense, they have to do something with Aiton, and Aiton is their pressure point because they've got two aging stars in CP3 and KD. So they've got to figure out what they're going to do moving towards the future. They want to try to win a ring. That's not going to happen with as they were currently constituted. Um, they need to get more production out of DeAndre Ayton. I don't think that I'm not sure that Vogel can, but Vogel is good with big men. Like he's got a really good success rate with making big men into great players for at least a couple years. Like he turned Roy Hibbert into an all-star basically. He got uh, Dwight Howard to clean his act up and win a final. So I think that Vogel can be a good coach for the Suns because they do have that big man that they need to shape and make into a better player. I think that would be fine. I think the Monty Williams thing in Detroit, I think they paid him that much money because who wants to move to Detroit? I know I wouldn't want to move to Detroit. Um, Especially, I don't know anybody who plays on that team. Do you know who plays on that team?
That is a
I
great
I don't
question.
know who plays for the Pistons.
Because a
So
lot of the players that have at least that I have been following up to that point with their team have shipped off. So
yeah, so I don't know. I don't know who plays for them. So that's a great opportunity as far as money, but as far as like going from the Suns, like that's almost like a backwards move because sure you're making more money, but now you have to deal with snow 25 times out of the year. So like it's a completely different organization. Like the Pistons are known for their defense and stuff, but I'm not sure that Williams will bring that. So hopefully he does well. Hopefully both the new coaches do well. Well, I mean not too well because I'm a Lakers fan, ladies and gentlemen, first and foremost, and love Frank Vogel. He got us our 18th ring, but we don't want to see him do too good in Phoenix because Phoenix don't deserve no rings. Those are all rings. But I'm happy to see him do the things that $78 million is crazy amount of money to pay a head coach. But the cable dollars, they making money in the NBA, so you got to spread it around somewhere.
Yeah, well, I would say, I mean, it's awesome to have Vogel. Couple of things. It's awesome to have Vogel to see that he was able to get a gig with a contender because Phoenix, even within the small window that you shared that they likely have, are still a contender and have an
For
opportunity
sure.
to win a title, even though they're very top heavy and not very deep. They're top heavy enough. There's enough there that gives them a shot at winning a title as long as they're healthy. And I don't know. I just feel some type of way on how they did him, like how he exited the Lakers. It just seemed like kind of scapegoatish, like how that happened. And I don't like how it was kind of shady how like he he had left the team and how that whole like process happened of him not being fired from the Lakers. It was really, yeah, it just rubbed me the wrong way. So and then a lot of times too, when you have a coach that coaches again, a lot of times similar to what you have with players, um they're not always given the opportunity to or have an opportunity to coach within that same conference. It's not always the norm or it's not something that you always see. A lot of times, just like what you saw with Williams, they jump ship to another conference. So, he's in the same conference, which is cool. And then B, man, I'm really looking forward to that Phoenix Lakers game
Oh
because
yeah.
it's going to be awesome and it's going to be so satisfying. I'm rooting for him. It'll be so satisfying. I know for me in terms of understanding how he exited the Lakers, but also I'm sure for him, I'm positive he has that game circled on his
All
calendar
four of them,
when
because I think we play them 4 times.
yeah, I'm sure he has those games circled. And yet he has it like highlighted. Whatever like legend that he may use, with his markings or what have you. I'm sure he is keyed in on those games this season because he wants to make a statement. Which anybody who is traded from a team or let go from a
Oh
team,
yeah.
wants to get back at their former team. So that's going to be an entertaining game, or say those will be entertaining games for sure. So
Yeah.
now obviously those aren't the only news bits that we had in the world of sports. As you can see, a lot of it is very NBA heavy, but I mean we are at the tail end of the season. There's a lot going on there. We have, of course, Ja Morant's suspension that's impending, and then I feel like we can close off with the Shannon Sharp leaving undisputed because that's kind of within NBA stuff, but they talk about more than the NBA. So I feel like we can kind of hold off on that. But
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on uh, Adam Silver? Had uh, there had been he actually had done a conference of talking about what's going to happen with John Moran and what their decision is going to be, and he came to made the point that they're going to wait for the finals to end before they come to a decision, and rightfully
Hmm.
so because you would hate to have any any news regarding um, a player and kind of the unfortunate like negative things that they are doing or involved in to take away from the efforts of the players that are worked so hard to get into the finals, and we wanted to be focused on them, and then optics wise too. Like he as a league, you want the focus to be on your championship and not on some of the crazy stuff that
Not
a
on the
player is
negative for
involved in.
sure.
So what are your thoughts on that decision, and what is your opinion of or thoughts on what may happen in terms of an actual suspension, actual punishment?
So I think that that was a smart business move to not, because the finals between the Heat and the Nuggets were not the preferred advertiser finals. Obviously, we all know that they wanted to see that purple and gold versus those Celtics. That's what we wanted to see, but that's not what happened because those teams are flawed. But just to see that they waited to put any consequence on Ja is intelligent, I guess, for business purposes. I think that they're going to they have to suspend him for some amount of time. Really, this whole story with Ja is just ultimately we're all just sad because we see the potential that he has and how he's because he's supposed to be the front. He's supposed to be the next front man of the NBA. It was supposed to be Zion Williamson, but clearly Ja is the better option. He's been more successful. He's been um,
Inconsistent
consistent.
and reliable as a
He's got
player in terms of
he's got
playing.
marketable skills and all that. So they've been really trying to they really are trying to find a new guy because Steph, LeBron, and Kevin Durant are all in their late 30s. So they're not going to be playing much longer. They need to find that guy for the next level that's an American star. Giannis is great, Joker's great, all these guys are great, but they're not from here. They don't endure the national NBA fan as much as they should. So for him, I think that it's just, it's honestly just a shame. We're sad to see him deal with so much turmoil, but he just needs to focus on what he needs to focus on. I think they'll probably, I don't know, maybe 50 games. I think it might be 50 games. Um, but I just I don't see how they can't not suspend him because the negative press that it's giving for the NBA is not good for the bottom line, and unfortunately, with organizations like these or any organization, if you start costing your job money, they're going to sanction you. So um, for someone with such a great opportunity like Ja, he just needs to focus on what he needs to focus on and keep his head out of trouble. So we'll see what Ja does. No, I was about to say David Stern. What Silver does, but we'll see. I don't
Yeah.
think that there's anything you could do but sanction him, um, because so much of what the NBA promotes is anti-guns. So it's just like they changed the name of this franchise. They've done so many things to lean away from that it's just like you got to do something. How do you feel about it?
Yeah. I mean, you probably have shared most of my thoughts or stance on this, and as you said, he's considered one of the faces of the NBA going forward, and
Hmm.
so if you're considered one of the faces of an entire league, you just have to carry yourself, a different way, and be more cognizant of. And it's not to say that people don't make mistakes, and that everyone is you have to be perfect. But I'm just saying you still have to have just that wherewithal and knowledge of, okay, when being placed in those in certain positions or situations, that when there's a way of going left or right,
Hmm.
understanding that, okay, taking a step back, I understand that I have a huge future ahead of me in terms of my talents as a player and as a figure, for other players that are coming up behind me, for kids, what have you. And I need to be cognizant of that, and not go that route that is going to divert me away from that. And I mean, a lot of it, and I hate putting it on this, but I mean, a lot of it is just where the player is in their career. He's still in the young part of his
Mm-hmm.
career.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, we have other players too that are around the same in the same part of their career, and they're absolutely responsible, and uh, we don't see them place themselves in these types of like situations or matters. So I don't know if it's and I mean I don't personally know Ja. Maybe it might be something else there going on where maybe he's just sitting down with someone and kind of breaking down like what all of this is about. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
might be helpful, because it's just kind of weird that you have a situation happen once, you're like, okay, like this is a unfortunate matter that has happened one time, but to have it happen again, in
Mm-hmm.
succession of that is raises other questions of what's really going on. So I don't know what that may look like in terms of punishment. Um, Maybe it might be, 2/3 of the season, like you were saying, 50 plus games. I
Yep.
wouldn't be surprised if they take away the whole season just to really, make a point of how they feel on the matter. Because again, supposed to be the face of the league, or one of the main faces of the league, and if that's where you see yourself as and where others see you, you can't do stuff like this. And so like have to be held accountable of what, of making those types of choices. So we'll see. Now getting into the last part of what we have here, and that's with Shannon Sharp leaving Undisputed. Now, of course, they do a great deal of NBA news. We all know that Shannon Sharp loves his Lakers just like he spills with LeBron's.
That's right.
If they don't do so many stories
The goat.
on the Lakers, if they don't do so many stories on the Lakers and LeBron, it's one of my gripes. But I digress. Is the fact that he's leaving Undisputed, which is crazy to think about. And there have been some things obviously that have transpired in interactions that he's had with Skip Bayless, his fellow co-hosts on Undisputed, that many can will probably attribute to why that is. But Spills, I'll punt it over to you. What are your thoughts on him departing?
Well, I think that this is more a story of not Shannon, but I feel like it's more about Skip Bayless. I feel like Skip Bayless, he's kind of like a toxic person, and I think that it's always a ticking time bomb with his opinions on stuff. I wouldn't go as so far because there are other sportscasters who like dog whistle way harder than he does, but he's the most prominent one that has like primetime shows or like big number shows. He had that big show with Stephen A. Smith for a long time.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, I just feel like with Skip, it's just that like he's just such a polaristic figure that they put people next to him, but they just don't. They don't, I mean, it just doesn't last long. So I think Shannon's going to do well with his own stuff because he's got that podcast and stuff. His podcast, which is pretty cool. But I just think that with the Skip Bayless thing, it's like they keep they have that dynamic white guy black guy thing, and it's kind of it just gets weird. I think that Shannon will be fine. I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. He's done a lot of great things over the years, so I think he'll be fine. But what do you think?
So I'll say this. I don't necessarily, 'cause you kind of brought it up, and I want to kind of clear the air on that. Is I don't think it's necessarily like the race thing that comes into play for me. It Because I want to say it's more the dynamic of an athlete and a non-athlete.
Yeah.
So where you have someone who has been there and done that, Hall of Famer, and understands can provide insight as a former athlete of what might be going through any given athlete's mind, whether they play football, whether they play basketball, whether they play any sport. And when it comes to Bayless, it's more of like the pundit, perspective where you have some insight into the numbers surrounding the game, the stats, if you will, but maybe not necessarily a perspective of the athlete. And that dynamic was what made it, very interesting.
Hmm.
However, what I will say is, while it was interesting to have that dynamic and their contrasting thoughts on various topics, I felt that many times, and probably more recently, where things have gotten like unnecessarily personal. Like,
For sure.
where, like, it's fine to have a different opinion on various things. We have different opinions on things.
That's right.
You
The Lakers are the
understand?
greatest franchise of all
They're
time, and we have all the
not
championships,
sure,
and we're so
but
much better than your
right?
basketball team. That's
We
right.
have we have different opinions when it comes to just now you're talking NBA. We know you love your Lakers. Me with the Warriors, but it's never personal. Like,
Never
we'll
personal.
joke and kid about it, but like it doesn't like have to get personal into like the player or their prior careers of other things that they've done. Like, and that was like the thing that was like really shocking to me. Like, and many of you guys can find it if you really dig of that show in which like he went at Sharp and was like when he was trying to, I want to say, was talking about Tom Brady, like, and he was like going at Sharp for like his actual football career, and I'm like, bro, like, you didn't play football. Like,
Yeah.
he's a Hall of Famer. Like, what are you
He's
talking
a
about? Like, what are
Hall
you
of
doing?
Famer. Not
What are
just
you
he
doing?
played, he's a
I'm like, what are
Hall
you
of
doing,
Famer.
bro?
Arguably the one of the greatest tight ends to
I'm like,
ever
what
play
are
the
you doing?
position.
Just
Who
just
do
like
you
he was
think
saying,
you
I'm like, bro,
are?
like for real, like you really coming at bro dude like this? So yeah, I don't know. Like, and it's going to be interesting to see if he gets Bayless. Speaking on Bayless, if he gets a replacement, I mean, Shannon leaving is going to create a major hole in that show because he brings something. He brings an energy to that show that a lot of people enjoy, and I don't think that is easily can be easily replaced by someone else.
For sure.
So I don't know if they want to try to do a panel of people, or maybe if they bring in like a different person every day of the week, like someone that they have up on their lineup of various pundits of
Hmm.
reporters, if you will. It's not going to matter. It's there is a type of energy and a dynamic that makes that show, and having Sharp and Bayless going back and forth between each other. Now, like I said, it's unfortunate that many times that it's had to get personal when I feel like it didn't need to, but I guess to make a point, like, or to try to one up the other, like, and this is a lot of times in regards to Bayless, where it had to get personal. I'm like, it wasn't necessary for you to get personal. You could have still made your point without getting personal like that.
Hmm.
I don't know. We'll see. I mean, Shannon Sharp, he's not going to be hurting for any opportunities to go anywhere because, like, as I said, he was an awesome component of that show. The real question is if they're going to actually be able to find somebody to replace him. So we'll
Right.
see.
Yeah, we will.
Yeah.
I just really think that it doesn't help that this show is on Fox. Like, part of it is that the fact that it's on Fox, it makes you wonder, are they doing this on purpose? Is it like because they have certain dichotomies that they have because Fox is Fox. We all know what Fox get down on. We don't need to go into it more, but we understand. So um, I'm sure they'll have another athlete in to replace Shannon. fairly quickly, but it's just, what's going on here with these guys. We'll see. We'll see because this is the
See,
second time because he left Stephen A. Smith on similar. Well, I guess he and Stephen A. Smith split up, it was more he got more money from Fox, but it's also that show kind of had run its course. So
yeah. It's not the same
it's
situation
not
for
the same
sure
at all. It's not the
as
same at all.
this, but I will give props in terms of I don't know if this was perhaps negotiated. Perhaps it was of Sharp being able to also take his podcast with him.
Yeah.
Because it could have gotten really petty where they were like, yeah, yeah, we're gonna buy you out because apparently, he had his contract bought out, and they're like, nah, but we're gonna keep the podcast. Like, you can't take that with you. That's ours. And they that didn't happen. So like, he was able to take his podcast with them. So, kudos that even though the circumstances, weren't the best, and there was a divorce, so to speak, of the
Hmm.
two parties, it was able to happen as amicably as possible or as cordially as possible, and understanding that the podcast, Club Shay Shay, that's his, that is, in terms of branding, what brings people to it is Shannon Sharp. So, and allowing him to be able to take that with him as well, I did like that part of it where that wasn't something that kind of went to the wayside, because I still want to be able to check out that show. I enjoy that show, and the topics that are discussed there. So yeah. Any last thoughts before we wrap up here?
That's it. I just, wish Shannon and Skip the best. I'll miss the memes because he was really good with
Yes,
making
yeah,
memes
yeah,
from that
sure,
show. But other than
sure.
that, yeah, sad.
All right, cool.
Yep.
Well, that will do it for us here on this edition of This Week in Review, guys. I want to thank you guys so much for checking out the episode. And just as a couple of reminders, just know that you can find us on Twitter at Move and Shake UNLTD. Make sure you're using that hashtag TWnRMNSU, which you saw I have right here and I have right here. So other than that, and then also, of course, Instagram, Movers and Shakers Unlimited. But Spills, I'm gonna punt it over to you. Can you tell folks where they can find you?
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You can find me on Instagram at Truly Spill. I'm there. I don't like scam emails. I've seen some of you have tried to approach me for opportunities that are not opportunities. They're just fake things. So stop that. I'm not going to give you any money. Um, I you know I don't believe that you have any money to give me. So just let's keep it casual there, guys. Let's keep it casual. But always look me up. Give us 5 stars. 5 stars is what we need. Give us good ratings and everything. So that's all I've got. Back to you, Brandon.
All right, bet. So again, I want to thank Spills for co-hosting as usual for this week in review. Once again, I am your host, Brandon Troy, also co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me at Brandon Troy ENT, which you see down below. Also at Brandon Troy _ ENT Instagram. Be on the lookout, guys, because we do have a couple of things that are on the way that I'm sure you guys will enjoy. A couple of shows that are coming up. Um, I understand a Awesome Con that is having its 10-year anniversary happening in a couple of weeks. And we may have some other shows to announce as well. So be on the lookout for that also. So thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there. And of course, see you soon.
5 stars. 5 stars. 5 stars, guys.